Welcome back, everybody. In this video, we will be covering one of the most tragic and depressing character stories of Goddess of Victory, Nikke. Today, we will be deep diving into the story of Marian, aka Modernia, and the incredibly terrible trials and tribulations she has been through over the course of the main story these last 2.5, almost 3 years so far. As for that, let's start right from the beginning and move right on into the video. All of it begins with the crash of the transport ship in the commander's very first mission. The commander was supposed to bring a transport ship full of explosives to a rendezvous point and take up the position as the acting commander of the squad he is supposed to meet. However, the transport ship crashed and the commander nearly died. The individual who saved the commander was none other than the subject of this video, our girl, Marian. She is a Nikke from the squad's Silver Gun, who was meant to accompany the commander on this mission. After the crash and our first skirmish, we end up putting a bandage on the slightly wounded Mary, despite bandages doing nothing for Nikkes. Whether this is out of an act of kindness, ignorance, or both, I am still not entirely sure of. Due to this act, however, and Marian constantly declaring her will to protect the commander, the two start to develop a bit of a close bond throughout this entire ordeal. Up to the point that we meet Rappy and Anise at the rendezvous point. The mission is now to track down and hopefully recover the Nikke squad that went missing, as there was a Nikke squad meant to scout out supplies and resources in the general location that this mission is taking place in. And then they went missing. So the mission is now to track them down and hopefully recover the Nikke squad that went missing. However, complications and certain suspicions arise. As the squad proceeds with the mission, we learned that not only was Marian afflicted with corruption, which effectively causes a form of mind control and takes over the nanomachines in the brain to control an Nikke, but, and here's where the major plot twist happens, she was also the one to sabotage and shoot down the transport ship by activating the explosives. Meanwhile, she was entirely unaware of this and not entirely in control of her actions due to the reality of how corruption works. Not long after this, she begins emitting a calling signal, which is something raptures do to lure forth other raptures of bigger and smaller status. She calls forth a tyrant-class rapture to the location known as a blacksmith, which proceeds to engulf and swallow her. Following this, the commander, Rappy, and Anise do battle with the blacksmith in a very desperate attempt to save the other Nikkes who were consumed, along with the newly devoured Marian, attempting to destroy the blacksmith before it can disassemble the Nikkes for parts. They then proceed to do battle with the blacksmith and succeed. All of this culminating into the final cutscene here.
Considering there was only a 12.4% of success, I'd say that was a job well done.
I'll check the survivors. No survivors from the Vanguard. All the parts have been ransacked.
What about Marian?
Still alive. Over here. Here.
This is bad. Her brain has already been corrupted. We all know the rules. Any Nikke who has sustained brain damage is to be disposed of. According to the law, the execution must be carried out by the commander.
This pistol is for when we must self-terminate. Humans can use them as well. Just get in close.
Perhaps I should do it?
No. We Nikkes cannot execute our own kind. No time to hesitate, Commander. If we don't get this done, she will probably become an irregular soon. Commander! Over here, Commander. Commander. Thank you for your bandage. No signs of life.
Official confirmation of death. Our investigation mission is complete. Head back to the Ark. Damn it!
Now, I know what you may be thinking. That may look like the end of Marian's story. That may look like the end of it, as Marian is supposedly dead now. However, you'd be incredibly wrong. While the story is sad enough as is, and while what happened to her is pretty terrible, it's not the end of the story regarding Marian. Things in Nikke always find a way to surprise you, and they always get more depressing. After the supposed death of Marian, some time passes. The commander is then placed in permanent charge of Anise and Rappy, and Neon joins the squad under the orders of Ingrid. The commander then names the new squad the Counters. They are then sent forth on a mission to capture a new variety of rapture known as Chatterbox, who will be a key figure for a long time to come, and will be mentioned a few other times in this video. The Counters complete a few other missions in the time after they believe Marian to have died. The Counters are eventually sent on a mission to the frozen north to find info on the Pilgrims, Specifically, Snow White, who was responsible for laying Chatterbox on his ass last time that the commanders fought him. The counters end up encountering Chatterbox after falling into his trap, and the commander is separated from the counters and kidnapped by Chatterbox for info. Snow White then proceeds to appear and rescue us, but Chatterbox ends up escaping. With not much other choice, the commander then follows Snow White and gives chase to Chatterbox in an attempt to track the sneaky bastard down and finish him off. After finally catching up to him, we then proceed to beat him again. It is at this point we encounter Modernia, a Nikke donning a large humanoid-shaped rapture suit with wings. The commander notices the sheer hatred and ominous aura that pervades this Nikke-like being. The commander and Snow White proceed to do battle with Modernia after reuniting with the remainders of the counters. After a tough battle, they proceed to defeat Modernia, upon which her face mask breaks just a little bit and proceeds to fall off. It is then revealed to us that she is actually Marian, who has been mysteriously revived and has been turned into a heretic, who is now on the side of the Raptures. This is the first of when we learn she is alive. We then somehow, after talking to her, cause Modernia to regain her old sense of self, becoming Marian once again, albeit only for a brief moment. It is at this point a black light begins to coalesce around her, starting to envelop her body. Not long afterwards, a devastating explosion rings out. This explosion knocks away the counters and causes an avalanche, causing them to take cover. It is because of this that we are separated from Marian yet again, not knowing what became of her or Chatterbox. The commander then receives Vapaus in the form of a bullet from Snow White, which he then later goes on a mission in which he learns that this Vapaus eliminates nanomachines and can either neutralize a heretic or even kill them outright. The commander also theorizes it could be used to destroy the corruption via destroying the nymph and bring Marian back to him and the side of humanity. It is at this point, let me make this clear, it is at this point that the commander vows that when next he meets her, he will subdue Marian and bring her back to humanity's side so that he does not lose her yet again. After going on a few missions, later on in the story, the commander takes part in a joint operation with almost the entirety of the biggest hitters and the biggest squad in the Ark. The mission that the commander embarks on is a mission to subdue the heretic Marian and return her to the side of humanity, if at all possible. After a very, very tough, very long, and very arduous battle with many encounters and many risks involved, it seems victory is in sight. They proceed to encounter Marian at the end of the mission. After neutralizing Marian and the commander nearly dying, as well as Rappy unknowingly losing her nymph because she came into contact with the commander's unrefined Vaphouse blood from tending to him after his near-death experience, his near-death wound, we have retaken Marian. She starts to regain her sense of self and starts to talk to us again, wondering what is going on, as she has no memories of her time from a heretic at this moment when she first regains her sense of self. It seems the operation is a success, and it seems that Marian is ours once again. However, things can never be that simple. And yet another tragedy soon occurs. After successfully hitting her with the Vaphouse and returning her to normal, Shatterbox comes flying in after escaping the confrontation with Snow White, who is supposed to hold him off, only to end up injecting another corruption code directly into Marian's brain, which is now devoid of nymph. We seemingly have no way to bring her back at this moment in time. Yet, in desperation, we know what we must do. We have to bring her back to the Ark and save her. After recovering, we are then called in, but we find out the only way to cure her of the corruption is to basically wipe her entire brain, returning her to an almost infantile state that is no different from a newborn baby girl. Inevitably, this course of action is taken. Yet for some reason, the word commander still remains in her memory. For some reason unknown. We take the course of several weeks off from missions, and we successfully teach her how to talk and read again. And in a very short amount of time, she somehow matures quite a bit from an infantile, practically newborn state to what could only resemble a prepubescent mental state in an extremely short period of time, taking only the span of a couple of weeks. It is at this point that she becomes a permanent member of the Counters and starts to go on a mission with us. However, another tragedy strikes, as it always does, and forces in the Ark repeatedly attack the Counters at the outpost and try to seize Marian. Forces ranging from those of the central government, who want her for research, to those of Heavenly Ascension, a terrorist ring in the Outer Rim, who wants her on her side so that she can fight against the Ark for the sake of the Outer Rim. This results in us having to flee the Ark entirely up to the surface. We proceed to have to get into contact with the Pioneer Squad and leave Marian in the care of Snow White, Rapunzel, and Scarlet. This results in her becoming a crying mess, crying her eyes out at having to leave the commander's side, as she has gotten incredibly attached. But it's a thing that has to happen. So after we calm her down, we promise to come get her when it's safe again. They, the Pioneer Squad, however, cannot care for her indefinitely, as they have their own missions. So they take her to the Kingdom to be left in the care of their compatriots, the White Knights, who are also pilgrims, which are composed of the members Crown and Chime. Marian seems to fit in a little at first. Not long after, however, Marian ends up going into a depressive state for some time because she wants to return. At which point, Crown finally manages to pull her out of it to some extent by taking her to go see the commander. Halfway through the journey, though, she starts to come to a realization, at which point she realizes what she must do, and that she has to wait for him, as it will only cause problems for him. She returns to the kingdom and begins to start fitting in with the White Knights, albeit weirdly since she has weird habits that she picked up from the pioneers, such as alcoholism from Scarlet, Rapunzel's little bit of a horny nature, and Snow White's proclivity for eating anything in sight that is edible. The kingdom then has a small rapture horde invaded at one point, and she decides that she wants to protect the kingdom, even though fighting the raptors brings her discomfort. This is when she undergoes a bodily transformation to some degree and seems to mature even further into what most closely resembles more of a young woman in terms of her mental age. Fast forward even further, the kingdom comes across Kilo and Talos, who takes them into the kingdom. Kilo and Talos start struggling to fit in. Not long after this, and after Marian has come to help Kilo to some extent realize her sense of self, the newly revived heretics, Indivilia and Chatterbox, who escaped from the assault on the Ark, attack the kingdom and attempt to claim something they believe to be valuable that is held there. Throughout the course of the siege, both of the times that Chatterbox has infiltrated the actual fortress, he attempts to force Marian back over to the side of the heretics, claiming it to be her destiny and her fate. He clearly knows something the rest of us don't know about Marian. This begins to disturb Marian and cause her headaches, and it gets to her to some extent, but she eventually comes to her senses and starts fighting back against the raptors invading, much to the dismay of Chatterbox and Indivilia. The tide of battle is turned, and then Crown unleashes her secret armament to entirely subdue Indivilia after Kilo and Talos defeat Chatterbox and fling his head outside of the castle. The battle is decided. Not long after this, Marian starts to wonder about her origins, though, and Crown encourages her to that end to pursuit of discovery, but warns her as well, as Crown has an ominous feeling about it. At some point, when the recovered Indivilia and Chatterbox are trying to regather forces of raptors to reinstate the invasion on the kingdom after being practically decimated by Crown's secret armament, Marian wanders into their encampment, much to the surprise of Indivilia and Chatterbox. They wonder how she got past all the raptors they had outside standing guard, and then prepare to fight her, at which point she quite literally bends them to her will and forces them to kneel, and makes them promise to leave the kingdom alone, to which they reply, "Yes, my queen." This not only astonishes and amazes both Indivilia and Chatterbox, but leaves a lot of questions for the near future. This is an astounding revelation, and also the last of what we've heard and seen in the story regarding Marian so far. She has been through conflict and tragedy after conflict and tragedy, only to then possibly be the newest incarnation of the Rapture Queen. Yet, she still wants to be on the side of humanity and be on the commander's side because she wants to be with the commander she adores so much. Despite the discomfort and outright mental anguish that being in conflict with the Raptures brings her. If there is ever at any point enough information to make another one of these big videos, there will be a part 2 to Marian's deep dive somewhere down the line. As for now, though, that is it for the video over Marian, our sweet little girl who just can't seem to catch a motherfucking break. Thank you all for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe and click that bell for all notifications if you like this content, as there will be many, many more videos like this in the future. I appreciate you all for watching. Stay cool, crew.